Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is I, your host, Mr. Sean, and today we're checking out a subreddit I haven't been to in a while. That is r/rpghorrorstories. I used to make quite a few of these, and then the neckbeard and lost media videos kind of took off, so I've been focusing more on them, but I am trying to keep my channel's content diverse, as that's kind of the whole point of doing this in the first place. I'm a mini maker first and a YouTuber second, and these videos are my way of getting a little bit of free advertising in the form of entertainment for my miniatures business. Hey, why don't I talk about it now? While the marketplace for tabletop miniatures is oversaturated with 3D printed, mass-produced, and, mass-made miniatures, that is not what we do at Chimera Miniatures. And by we, I mean me, Mr. Sean. What I do at Chimera Miniatures is, while I do sometimes just repaints of pre-painted miniatures, my bread and butter, my passion, is to take bits and pieces of various miniatures, cobble them together into a quote-unquote chimera that is one of a kind and you will not find anywhere else. That way, you can be assured that the piece you bring out on your table is not going to show up at any other table in the world. As of the posting of this video, our second miniature giveaway contest is now closed. I will be compiling all the entries and randomly selecting a winner, and the winner will be announced in an upcoming video. So be on the lookout for that next week. At the time of recording this video, we are at 118 subscribers. When we get to 150, we will do another giveaway on the channel. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to help get these videos out there. The more people that see these videos, the more minis I can potentially sell, and the more minis I sell, the more videos I make. Also, my Patreon is currently live. There are plenty of different tiers, all at a very low, reasonable price, and if you want to go to the top tier of $15 a month, you are automatically entered into a monthly miniature giveaway. And without further ado, let's look into some role players behaving badly. Just so you know how this works, I have not read these stories before. I've kind of just clicked on any story that looked good on the subreddit, and so you're kind of getting my blind reaction to this. Our first story today comes from user Towel Harry, and it's called "Jealous Player Suppresses Their Feelings, Gets Aggressive, and Ruins the Game," and it is tagged "Not Safe for Work." Sorry for any mistakes present in advance. English is not my native language. Trigger warning: mentions of incest between characters. So, this story is about how suppressed and non-reflected feelings could totally ruin fun in D&D. In this story, the following take part: me, the DM, and a group of 4 long-term friends who were looking to play together. I'll simply call them by their character classes: Bard, Warlock, Fighter, and Rogue. They all seemed like nice guys with some D&D experience, and I was starving to DM, so the game took off really nice. The campaign was set in my homebrew world, which actually means a lot to me, and I was ecstatic to show my new players the world and the plot I prepared specially for them. Bard and Rogue decided to play 2 siblings, and during the game they decided they both had a traumatic experience in their backstories, so they were kind of closer than siblings. They had sexual attraction to each other. I said, "Okay, if that's what you want, it's fine by me," and we continued playing. Their backstory, meanwhile, developed to the point where they decided they even had sex once, but based on their trauma exclusively. Again, fine by me. Usually I don't intervene in PC-to-PC relationships, the exception being if it creates a conflict between players outside of game. Then, strange things started to happen. I already don't like where this is going. I mean, it's one thing if you want your characters to be in a relationship together, but why specifically did you have to be siblings, and why did it have to be incestuous? Like, okay, I know it's just fantasy, but I even get creeped out if people enjoy, step-sibling porn. Like, I don't care, what type of siblings you are. The idea of, anything like that going on between siblings just creeps me the fuck out. And personally, I think that's due to the fact that people have made some weird comments when I tell them that my sister is my best friend, and she is. I mean, we're very close, but not in that way. Purely platonic, familial sibling bond. But when I talk about how my sister is my best friend, people give me that weird look and go no. No, what the fuck? Don't even joke about that. That's fucking weird. I could never look at my sister that way, and it's weird to me how easily people seem to have that fetish or fantasy. Like, it's fucking weird. And if you have that fetish, what the fuck is wrong with you, alright? I'm sorry if that offends you, but no, I'm not. That's fucking weird. We had a chat where my players discussed the latest game, plot hooks, backstories, etc. And Bard was discussing only their ship with Rogue exclusively. They even stopped feedbacking me on the games, instead saying something like, "I'll write my feelings down in a few days. I just have too many emotions." And as you may guess, they never really did write. Eventually I received a huge text in my DMs where Bard was complaining about how I was seeing their character only as a clown because I joked once about their character in the group chat. I said I was sorry, and I promised not to joke about their character anymore if it makes them uncomfortable. They mumbled something in response, and the topic was closed. Okay, DM said this, OP said that this was going to get weird, and it is definitely weird now. After about half a year playing, I was called in Discord by Bard, who started complaining about how their character had too little spotlights and no side quests at all. Mind you, I gave Bard an item about 5 or so sessions earlier, which was clearly magical, and Bard never even tried to inspect it. They just put it in their pocket and forgot. I reminded them about it, and Bard said something like, "Yeah, but you don't give me time to inspect it. We always have something to do." I said they could do it anytime they want, for example, during the long rest. I was really apologetic and somehow felt guilty about the whole situation. They also complained about how I was talking about everything in the group chat, but never about the Rogue/Bard ship, and accused me of hating it. I mean, I can't speak for OP, but I hate it. Cool, let's just all talk about your weird, incestuous, fake relationship. Bard's a fucking weirdo. I was a bit shocked. I explained that I don't intervene in PC-to-PC relationships and got a, "well, you should then," answer. I don't really remember much else from the talk, but it was extremely tiring and I felt I was a bad DM after it. I remember seeing this a lot in these stories when I used to read them, in that the DM would get a complaint from a player that had absolutely no merit in their value as a DM or even in how the campaign was going, and they would feel like a bad DM because a problem player complained, and it's like, no. You are doing fine. If this one weirdo is the only person complaining, you're probably doing better than you think you are. Especially when their complaint is that they're not being allowed to be the big damn hero protagonist, and it's because they want you to just hand it all to them. Like, you gave him a magic item. He never bothered to look at it. Never once said, "Oh, I want to do this." And you're right, he probably forgot about the item, but then instead of going, "Oh shit, well, I'll inspect it next time," he goes on a rant about, "Well, we always have something we need to do." And it's like, yeah, that's how games work. That's what makes them fun. OP, you don't talk a lot about your game, but I'd wager you're doing a great job. Another half year of playing, and I started noticing how every fucking NPC who was friendly with Rogue, or who Rogue was interested in, got a cold shoulder from Bard. And when we started discussing a funny ship with Rogue and NPC in the chat, Bard got livid and left the group, returning back later when, as I discovered later, they had a talking to from Rogue. Dude, do you just want to, fuck the person playing Rogue outside of the game? If so, why didn't you just, pitch, "Hey, we have a gay relationship, not a incestuous relationship based off of trauma." Or maybe it was a straight incestuous relationship or a straight relationship. I don't know. You haven't given the genders of these players. You've only referred to them as guys, so I'm assuming you are all male. If I'm wrong, I apologize. The more the merrier. The other players and I, except for Rogue, regularly got accused of saying/joking something wrong about Bard's character. So we actually stopped talking about them at all. Alright, it's tangent time again, everybody. So the thing is about joking about other people's characters. There's telling a good-natured joke, and then there's making fun of a character. Bullying someone's character idea sucks, but just making a few lighthearted jokes is fine, especially sometimes it even kind of becomes a whole thing, not only necessarily in the game, but in the friend group as well. Back when I was running my first campaign, my, now fiance, but at the time she was just a friend, she was a wizard, and the party was about to try and sneak into this underground subterranean lair of a dark, it was basically the idea that a former drow matron mother had instead decided to stop worshipping Lolth and had decided to start worshipping the eldritch deity that was the BBEG of the game. My fiance was playing a female drow wizard who had actually, in a dream, received a vision from Lolth that her way to become a high priestess, which was her goal, would be to kill this fallen matron mother. So this is like a big part for her character. So all of the group rolls their stealth rolls. Most of them are kind of mid-range, but she rolls a natural 1. So as the group is preparing to sneak in, I narrate that they hear this loud crunching noise and they all turn around, and there is Rosalind eating a bag of sun chips. It was very much a spoof on Peter Griffin eating chips up in the Anne Frank attic, and I chose sun chips because that's just the noisiest bag of chips ever. I did not know at the time that sun chips were one of her favorite chips in real life, so we have since gone to calling them Rosmunch. Again, joking is fine. I just feel like this player isn't being bullied as much as they are just very sensitive. But the last drop was when we were discussing characters and their charisma, not as a stat, and I said that I think that all Rogue's characters were very charismatic because Rogue themselves were a very charismatic person. The next day, I got a huge message, again, from Bard, who somehow thought that the remark meant that I found them and their character not charismatic at all. Mind you, they had something like beauty backstory, so a lot of NPCs flirted with them. And then Bard stated that if I can't say anything positive about their character, that I should stop discussing them at all. Like, just shut up and continue DMing me. I was so sick and tired of apologizing to Bard at that point that I said, okay, if I'm such a bad DM for you, then why not stop being my player? Bard got livid and started shit messaging me with accusations again, but I simply blocked them. Oh, and if you think that's the end, you're dead wrong. The worst part is about to come. It came out that Fighter and Warlock had received huge accusation texts in their DMs too, about how they all misinterpret Bard's character and make them feel bad. I talked to them for a bit, and they forwarded me messages with Bard complaining about how all the NPCs who Rogue communicated with were part of my plan to separate siblings because I hated their pairing and how these NPCs were all shitty, badly written, and nauseating. Also, Bard said that they talked to Rogue, and Rogue even wanted to forbid discussing any pairings except Rogue and Bard in the chat. I immediately messaged Rogue, and they were as shocked as I was, saying that they and Bard never had this conversation. While talking to Rogue, I discovered that Bard always wanted to play with Rogue as their character's spouse, lover, or at least close relative, and sometimes got aggressively jealous at anybody who tried to flirt or just become close with Rogue in or out of character. You can guess the symptoms, right? I was so emotionally drained from all the drama that I had taken a huge hiatus in DMing. 3 players left still wanted to continue playing. There won't be any conclusions. Honestly, I just wanted to share this shit. TLDR, player is jealous of their friend whom they are secretly in love with and get aggressive over their character's pairing. I kind of wish this story had an update, not so much for the story in-game, but I want to know, after all this came out, are Rogue and Bard still friends? Like, apparently this pattern of behavior is not new. I kind of get the sense that this DM was kind of new to these friends. They hadn't really played with any of them before. And I guess that, this seems like this is like an online game, though it was not specifically specified. But it's clear that Bard has been displaying this behavior far prior to this particular campaign. And if did Rogue just not pick up on it or not put 2 and 2 together? Or, I mean, what's their deal? Are they okay with this and they kind of get off on it, but they're never gonna see Bard that way? Like, what's the deal here? Did Rogue confront Bard and go, hey man, I don't feel that way about you and you need to knock it off? Or is this just kind of their thing? Like, I don't know, I have so many questions. I don't know, as a DM myself, I think for there to be PC to PC relationships in a game, it takes a level of maturity that not every player can handle. And, I think that is where a lot of horror stories come from, is that players lack a certain level of maturity needed to play these games. Alright, up next we have a story from user Commercial Warning 271, which is entitled, Why I No Longer Play D&D with My Brother. Hopefully it's not the same sibling relationship as mentioned in the last story. Seeing as my last post about a particularly horny bard and a gnoll blew up, I have decided to write a sequel story about the true problem player of my campaign, my brother the sorcerer. Alright guys, we're actually going to get back to this story in a second, but I'm going to go find that story that this guy originally posted. We're going to read that, and then we're going to read this one. So our current story is now one, also from Commercial Warning 271, and is entitled, I DM'd for a horny bard, and it was terrible. You can't throw that tidbit out to me and me not go looking for this, so let's just read these stories in order, and let's get into it. I DM'd once for a horny bard that just wouldn't quit, and it was not fun for me. Instead of writing some long post detailing the entire length of my short and grueling campaign, I'm just going to talk about what made the whole length of the campaign awkward. Verity, the Tiefling Bard. The party midway through the campaign shocked me by joining up with my BBEG, which was totally awesome by the way. However, to prove themselves to the big bad, they needed to do a job for him. They needed to track down a band of troublesome defectors and kill them all. You know, the usual kill quest. However, the BBEG didn't entirely have a reason to trust the party yet, so he'd assigned his lieutenant, a gnoll barbarian, to assist and keep tabs on the party. Horny for gnolls, if you're still listening to my channel, this story's for you, buddy. The bard was instantly attracted to this gnoll like you would not believe, despite her character being married and a mother, and the player's real-life husband playing the party's paladin. Verity wanted to bang this gnoll. No, she needed to bang this gnoll. This would be the player's priority until the campaign ended. Hell of a plot hook. The bard was making move after move on this gnoll every chance she got. It would not stop. The very plot of the campaign was lost to Verity. The party was stranded on the cursed island of GTFO, and that no longer mattered to her because they were stranded together, possibly forever, which was bad. For me, now, I wanted the campaign stakes to be high, but I'm the DM. The stakes shouldn't be weighted against me like this. Eventually the party finds the defectors and combat begins. Things went horribly, and if it hadn't been for the gnoll taking hits for the party, it was looking like a TPK. The sorcerer died and was eaten alive by a giant hyena. To make the combat easier with hopes of avoiding the imminent TPK, I had two of the defectors flee from the combat. But what was going to save the party was the other two players agreeing to retreat. Good idea. What went wrong though? The bard wanted to dash to the far end of the room and loot the 3 chests I had described. You know, the exact opposite of retreating. Here is the literal definition of the word retreat, copy-pasted if you were wondering. An act of moving back or withdrawing. There it is, and wouldn't you know, the bard picks the middle chest. The middle chest was a mimic I had put there to surprise the party after the fight. The time you should be looting, not before. I sigh. I pause for a moment, then describe the chest bearing teeth and biting down on the bard's forearms, with only 2 hit points remaining. Luckily, through the combined effort of the gnoll and paladin, they were able to separate the two, and the bard succeeded on her death saves. I just now thought of this. How would the paladin justify joining the BBEG? Did he, become an oathbreaker? Sorry, not the point of this story, I know, but it was just a thought that crept in. I described one of the gnoll defectors mounting one of the giant hyenas and whoa, stop. I hear mount as in mount a horse or summon your mount in an MMORPG. This is what any normal person would think when you say mount. My players thought I was describing an open sex act. If you couldn't tell by this, my players aren't normal people. I mean, are any of us D&D players normal people? After clearing this up, this shouldn't have been a thing, I described the enemy gnoll riding away saying, "This is a retreat. This needed to be said." Fortunately, the paladin and gnoll were able to knock him off his mount and finish the job. Afterwards, the party looted the room and somehow lost a magic item. Yes, this is what happened. The paladin opened up chest number 1 and cast Detect Magic. I tell him the chest contained rusted -1 weapons that looked like they weren't going to help him. The paladin opens chest number 3 and it contains a few gold pieces, rubies, and a good-looking bag. The paladin ignores this loot because he doesn't want to haul it all. The party has just passed up a ruby of the war mage and a bag of holding which could have been used to haul everything. I dropped hints, which were ignored. The party leaves the body of the sorcerer. He had the paladin's magic sword, and it's still there to this day. Wait, I thought the sorcerer got eaten. Is his body, like, in the body of the hyena? When the party leaves the building, the paladin tries to carry the bard but rolls low, so the Gnoll barbarian carries her. I wake up and passionately kiss him, the bard says. "You are unconscious for a few hours," I respond. Next session, the bard nearly dies again. The sorcerer makes a deal with the devil and nearly kills himself again, and the job is done. Wait, did the sorcerer come back? I thought you guys left his body there. I mean their job for the big bad. Verity is still on a mission to get boned. Now you might be wondering, who is this mysterious Gnoll barbarian? Is he handsome? Is he gentle? Is he even romance material? No, no, no. None of the above. It is at this point I have the bard roll insight on the barbarian to figure out his agenda. Nat freaking 20. He is a brutal killer that feels absolutely nothing towards you. He looks up to his boss and is here to make sure you don't lie about the completion of the job. Now you would think the power of the Nat 20 insight check would mean the information given to you is uncontestable, right? No. The bard player did not believe me. You heard that right. The bard did not believe what I, the DM, was telling her. I told her this was absolute, this ship had sunk, this was canon, and she didn't believe me. Love the nautical puns, by the way. The worst part about the Gnoll was his name. What was his name? Bone. It was Bone. That was it. The party wanted to bone Bone. I got inspiration for the name from the Warrior Cats series. It's great. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. But back on topic. Why did I pick Bone? Why? Now, the most important thing I have to say during the climax of the story is my relationship with the bard. Why was I so reluctant to just humor her? Why? Well, the paladin was my father. The sorcerer and problem player was my brother. And the bard was my mother. Yep, this whole time, this was a family campaign, and my mother wanted to get intimate with a fictional character played by me. Oh god, why did I pick the incest stories today? Any normal person would try to shut this down. I tried, but I am the only normal person in a family of not so normal people. OP, that little tidbit just made this story a million times worse. For better or for worse, the campaign ended horribly, and we all were angry at each other for some time. After 2 months of everyone to cool down, I asked my mother whatever happened to Verity. It's her character, right? She should decide. She said Verity boned Bone and they were together now. God freaking damn it. Another tangent time. I once played briefly in a campaign run by my friend's mother, God rest her, and there was this whole scene where my friend, her character was trying to seduce an NPC. At one point, her dad just goes, "Do not roleplay having sex with a character voiced by your mother." I feel so bad for you, OP. It has been at least 4 years, and I am starting up a new Pathfinder campaign with my parents, grandparents, and without my brother. Horror story for another day. Or for right after this, maybe. This time, there will be absolutely no flirting with the DM when we return to Island. None. Not happening. And although this is a sequel campaign, Verity will not be returning. I don't care that she's probably still alive. She is the new Sir not appearing in this campaign. If you want to read this story on YouTube, feel free. I love watching these sorts of videos. I also have quite a few more stories coming up in a few days. Edit. It looks like D&D Doge commented on my post, and this story might actually be read on YouTube. And it's also being read by Mr. Sean. This made me realize I need to clarify something major. This has nothing to do with anyone being gross. This was all what I would later discover to be character bleed and actual communication falling on deaf ears. I mean, OP, I don't think anybody, at least I wasn't, accusing your family of doing anything untoward, just that this is a super awkward situation. And with that being said, let's move on to OP's second story that we started before we got into this story. So just to remind you, this story by the same author is called Why I No Longer Play D&D with My Brother. Seeing as my last post about a particularly horny bard and a gnoll blew up, I have decided to write a sequel story about the true problem player of my campaign, my brother, the Sorcerer. This story will be more bullet points because the last time I tried to write this story, I ended up writing a long recap about my entire campaign, and no one wants to read that. Let's keep the horror relevant. Twice, he tried to split the party with the intent they would never rejoin the party. He wanted to finish up the entire plot of the campaign solo and claim all the rewards for himself. Never split the party. He once randomly decided mid-session that he would leave to go start up a Destiny raid without telling anyone. Almost any time the party would come up with a plan, he would wait until the very last moment to sabotage said plan with the intent of putting everyone in danger. He would constantly try to get NPCs into arguments and demand I roleplay these arguments as a sort of test. Well, test for what? Despite being a spellcaster, he would never cast spells. He would only ever fight if he could use the paladin's magic sword, despite only having 7 strength. When his character eventually died, eaten alive by a giant hyena, he threatened to quit if he wasn't resurrected. After I let him make a deal with the devil to bring his character back, he decided he no longer wanted to play his character anymore, and instead wanted to play as Greg Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. When I would not allow this, he proceeded to fake amnesia for the rest of the campaign. When his character caught a leech on his leg, he insisted he should be able to burn it off with burning hands. When I reminded him that spell was a magic flamethrower, he said none of it was real and he was casting it anyways, burning his junk off in the process. And finally, when the party joined up with the BBEG, he decided to burn down his wooden fort and say the party did it. When I asked him for his reason in character, he said, "I have none, I'm just bored. Stop railroading me." And that is it. I know this story wasn't well written or funny like the last story, but I tried. I just went on a tangent that wasn't fun to read, so I just wrote what was relevant. I mean, honestly, it's a pretty funny bullet point list, OP. I mean, I enjoyed it. Your brother sounds like it would have been awful in the moment, but looking back, you could kind of shake your head and laugh at just how awful it was, and I'm not surprised that he's not going to be in your current campaign. Your family sounds a little weird, but in all honesty, you're probably fairly well put together family. As long as none of this stuff is taking place outside of D&D, the fact that you can all be open, at least your family can be open about this stuff and is comfortable being that way, it's not the most dysfunctional family dynamic that I've come across, especially if all of this weirdness is contained to D&D. Families are weird. And, I mean, my family wouldn't even know the first thing about playing D&D, well, except for my sister who does play in my campaign. But, again, it's, I don't know, it was a funny couple of stories, OP, and I do thank you for sharing them. And guys, that is going to be the video today. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you previously entered the second miniature giveaway, please note that the winner will be announced in a video next week. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check the links, maybe buy a mini. Consider checking out the Patreon, maybe joining a tier that you're comfortable with if you're willing to make a monthly donation to this channel. But again, the most important part is I want to thank you for all that you continue to come to this channel, to listen to these videos, and I sincerely hope that you enjoy them. And until next time, I really hope that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.